Alright, welcome back from the previous video. Let's go ahead and start on our jump since we already got the left and right movement going. I'm going to go ahead and add a few variables here. Pause video. So what we have here is a jump force, which we have is 500, and this jump button, which will determine which axes we're jumping on, and it's just going to use a string variable to be able to determine that. So if you think about this, it's almost like this horizontal, which detects left or right. This will detect up. And the reason why we don't have to worry about the down, because gravity takes care of that. So let's go ahead and add a jump function that basically just puts, just adds a force to the jump. So let's say here. So we don't really have to worry about multiplying this by a value like, let's say like this one right here. This 2D add force vector 2D, and there's this horizontal, this vertical value that we are, this horizontal value that we are multiplying it by with the speed. This one we took it out because on this one, again, like I said before, we're only worrying about the up, not necessarily the down. And now all we need to do is go into where forces, especially like these 2D body 2D forces, are taken care of, and that's going to be inside of the fixed update. So right here. So inside of this fixed update, I have here that says add horizontal force. So I think what I should do to keep this consistent is to add a vertical. All right, so we have this add jump force, and it's only going to take place. It's only going to take place when this button was pressed. So I can go ahead and take this right here and put it into my fixed update here. So at this point, we do have a jump. We should have some jump force added to him when the button's pressed. Okay, so now that we're playing it, there's an error here. It says input button jump is not set. And let's look at what that means. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I do have the input button here set. And if I go to my edit project setting inputs, I can see here I have a jump here. But I'm looking at this name. That's a capital J. And then if I go to my code, I have a lowercase j here. So I'm going to change that lowercase to uppercase j. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go to my character, my player. And then I am going to change this from lowercase to uppercase, just to make sure everything is the way it was before. Now I'm going to save all of that, and I'm going to clear my console, and then I'm going to run it again. And there we got rid of that error. So it was just a matter of a lowercase j as opposed to an uppercase j. So when I click on, when I press that's way too high to jump. But when I press the space bar, so I'm going to probably, let me see if I can bring this down to 100. And then try something like that. Let's see, 300. So maybe it should be at 200. 150. I think 300 should be good, because what we're dealing with here is an issue we have to work with. Because right now, if I hold down the space bar, he just keeps going all the way up. So that's a problem we have to fix. Actually, that's the only problem we have to fix. So I'm going to leave this at I'm going to leave it at 500, because once I fix that problem, then I'll see actually the amount of jump. Because if you hold the space bar down, it just keeps on adding to that number. So that's something we have to change. So let's go ahead and stop this, and we go back to our code behind, and let's address that issue. So I'm gonna probably address that. First of all, I gotta detect when I'm hitting the ground, because then I can detect when I'm not hitting the ground, so I can know that the button should not be pressed again. So let me go ahead and find the ground layer. I'm gonna put a public variable here, and I'm gonna call upon the layer mask so I can know, and I'm gonna call that the ground layer. And then I'm gonna call upon, well, I'm gonna need the feet collider, so, and we use the circle collider 2D for the feet. And then we would just want to check and see if the ground is there. So if you were doing this manually, right, this part right here, actually no, this part right here wouldn't be in this equation, because this makes it a lot easier for us to only detect what's on those layers that are labeled as ground layers. So when we have something that's not labeled ground layers, we don't have to do any calculations on that. That's why we're using this, to only focus on one type of layer. So I can go ahead here and then check the grounding. So I'm gonna, maybe I should put that all the way down here. Yeah, with the jump. Call that is grounded. And I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and type this up and then restart the video. All right, so here's the is grounded. We're checking whether the circle collider is grounded, and if there's a collision. Basically, that's what this does. And it's going to do this hit test on everything that these things hit, except it's only concerned with actually anything that's on the ground layer. So really, we are filtering, even though we're checking everything, we're still filtering based on the ground layer. And if there is a hit, any sort of hit based on that, those parameters, it's going to return true. If not, it's going to return false. So here's what I added, and you want to go ahead and copy this and add that to yours. The second thing we need to do is actually add a ground layer. So if we go ahead and save this, and we go here inside of Unity, what you'll notice here, we have these tags over here, these layers over here. So what I want to do is I want to go here and I want to add a layer. I'm going to call this ground. And then you just hit enter key. Now you have yourself a ground layer. So now all we need to do inside of our scene is select something like, let's say this ground A. And then I'm just going to go here to the layers, and then I'm going to add that one that I just created called ground, and I'm going to add it to all the children. Now, in our player control script here, we have this ground layer right here. We made it public because we're going to go ahead and add the ground layer to here, the one we just created. So basically what I want to do is, and it knows it's a layer mask, so that's all it can accept. So all I need to do is go ahead and select my player right here. And then all the way down here, you're going to see where it says ground layer. And right now it says nothing, but it gives me the options from what the layers I just created. So I'm going to put ground right there. And we also, inside of our development here, we are also looking for the colliders, right? So we're looking for the feet colliders based off of the calculations that we're doing over here. So if you look inside of your player, inside of the player controller, you'll see here is looking for that feet COL. I call it COL for collider, and perhaps this is not the most readable, even though on the inside it shows you that it's looking for a collider. So it's probably better truthfully, if I go over here and I refactor this, instead of saying feet COL, I'm going to hold Control down and hit R twice. And that's going to allow me in Visual Studio to refactor this. So I'm going to call this Collider. So that way it's the feet collider, and I'm going to hit enter. And now everywhere this once said collide or COL, you see it changes it everywhere inside of my code. So now I call this feet collider just so it can be more readable. If you're fine with the way you did yours, keep it that way. It's not going to hurt anything. It just makes it more readable, make it look a little bit better for anyone else who wants to use my classes. So right now I have this feet collider here, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this one right here, this collider 2D, and I'm going to add it right inside of there to give it the feet collider, because as we know, inside the player, if I go ahead and click on this and click on edit, you'll see that's where the feet reside. So after all that, all I need to do is make sure, like I did here, that all my grounds are tagged as ground. So I've already selected this A, and you can see that's ground. And I'm going to select the B, and I'm going to convert this to ground. Hit yes. So now what I expect to happen is if I click on my character, right now it says it's not grounded because we're not playing the game, but I really want to see this checked when the game starts. So if I go hit play, grounded is checked because it is grounded, but if I were to jump, as you can see, it's not grounded when I jump. Man, he's jumping way too high. So, but for right now, we pretty much have what we wanted. Now all we need to do is add this ability for us to know whether we're jumped or not inside of our code. So let's go back into the player controller. So I'm just double click on that to open up this player controller. And we want to add a few new variables here. So since this is where all the jump stuff is, I'm going to go ahead and add it here. I want to know whether I can jump or not, so I don't need this to be available. And this is going to be a Boolean. And just call that can jump. And you start off as true, you can jump. And then we're going to use this variable here as a timeout to determine whether the person can double jump or not, or if there's a time for the double jump. We're just kind of controlling it. So now I'm going to want a function that says I can jump, or that activates it. And then so I can put that further down here. So now all we have to do is go to the jump function and then decide or use that to see if we are grounded. Then we can jump. So if is grounded, and actually if it's not grounded, if is grounded is false, or if can jump is false. If either one of those are false, And the issue I'm running into here is that I have this is grounded. I'm not really talking about this is grounded. So I'm going to change the name of this one. I'm going to say is grounded check. So I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to hit hold control down and hit double R. I'm going to rename this is grounded check. There we go. Now, because this one I was referring to is this one up here, is ground, not is grounded. All right, so if is ground is false or can jump is false, then go ahead and return. So from here, what I can do from here, so we're going to return, we're going to bust out of this if any of this is correct. But if not, then that means I can jump. And so then I'm going to say can jump. What equals true. And then I'm going to call the invoke method to activate jump. And then the second parameter would be the function for the time. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try this inside of Unity. Go ahead and hit play. So I shouldn't be able to double jump, but it looks like I'm still able to double jump. Let me look at this player. So when I jump and I double jump, I'm getting a is grounded. So there's something wrong with my logic. Let me check the logic again. So I'm gonna go back to the code. And it has to be somewhere inside of this jump logic here. So I'm checking first to see if grounded, right? If it's not grounded and I can't jump, then return. Because if it's not grounded, I shouldn't be able to jump. And if I can't jump is true or false, or can jump is false, then I should return. Now over here, I'm saying, okay, now you get to go ahead and jump. Go ahead and add the force, add all this sort of stuff. And then this, no. So here's the problem. Because after I'm able to jump, then I can no longer jump. So it should be false. Then this happens. So that's where the issue should have been. Let's go ahead and try it out and see what happens here. So I'm gonna hit I'm gonna hit run or play. Now I shouldn't be able to double jump. So I'm gonna jump. There we go. So now you see why I was able to leave this jump force at 500, because 500 is really not a lot when you're looking at it when you can't double jump. Before, what it was doing is reiterating through the jump power. So really the issue that where we can change the jump, it really wouldn't be necessarily in the power itself. So let's say if I jump here, there's my power, right? Really what I'm looking at is maybe this this timeout setting. So that way I can double jump if I'm in the air a little bit longer. See how I'm able to double jump? 1, 2, if you set this lower. So let's say if I set this to 0.1 seconds. Now I can double jump a lot faster, as you can see. So you can change the way, now he's doing Flappy Birds. So he could jump double jump a lot faster. So you can mess around with this too. But maybe you don't want the double jump, you know, you want him to be able to land at a certain time. And let me put this to something like 0.5. So when he lands, he can jump immediately. Because with 1 second, it was too much. So I think 0.5 would be where we want it. Because when it was at 1, even when he was landed, he wasn't able to jump again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my player and I'm going to change that from 1 to 0.5. Then I'll save that. I'll leave the default to 1, and anytime I use it, I can change it accordingly. So I think the major functionality to this is set. All we now need to do is probably start adding the animation to this. Yeah, I think that's all I need to do. Maybe some animation on this. So we'll do that in the next video. Right now, I think this video has gone too long. So I'll see you guys in the next video.